Titanium metal is known for being one of the strongest metals on Earth, but it's also known for being one of the least utilized metals on the planet. Today I'll be informing you about titanium, starting with the basics and history of this incredible element. I will then go on to discuss how this incredible metal is refined and produced. Later on in my discussion, I will then be explaining how titanium makes an appearance in products that you are either familiar with or you may be using every day. Today I'll be informing you about titanium and how it makes a presence in our lives today. So to start, I'll be talking about the history and basics of titanium. So here's a brief overview for you to quickly glance over. So to begin with, titanium was invented by a guy named Matthew A. Hunter in 1910. And he created the powder form of titanium. What he did then was he experimented with it, and then he went on and he created the metal. So once he created this metal, he's like, okay, what am I going to do here? So he decides to test it, and he found that it held amazing characteristics, such as its incredible strength, it's extremely lightweight, it's as strong as steel, but it's only 60%, it's 60% lighter than steel, and it's also corrosion resistant, according to education.jlab.org. Titanium is also widely distributed across the globe, since it is used in a variety of components, which I'll get into later. It mostly comes from Australia, where most of the refineries and reserves are located, and it is mined from minerals such as rutile, but it occurs in most minerals. So now that you know about the basics and history, I'm going to be going about the creation of the actual metal. Now here's a brief overview. So there are several different ways that titanium metal is created. The one I'm going to be discussing today is titanium is created in the United States, which is by the use of the Kroll process. Now the Kroll process starts obviously by mining. So the way they mine it is that they take mining gear and they mine elements such as rutile and they collect whatever they can find of the titanium. So now they have to take out all of the larger impurities such as rocks and other minerals, and they have to clear that using a suction bucket wheel, which is a series of screens. According to Eric Kraft, the author of Titanium. Titanium is very hard to make because titanium first has to be reduced using some sort of agent. And typically carbon is used, but carbon cannot be used to make a titanium simply because even though it is cheap, the titanium will come out to be brittle and weak. So instead, they reduce the titanium by simply using, they use petroleum in a fluidized bed reactor, and they put this in at 1,000 degrees Celsius. Once they've done that, they then have to take chloride gas and have to mix it in with the mixture in order to purify the petroleum. And they do this at a temperature of 800 to 850 degrees Celsius, according to chemguide.co.uk. Now, once they do that, they have to remove the chloride gas. So they do this by putting it into, they put it in a furnace with liquid magnesium to further reduce the mixture. And once they do this, they take that mixture and they transfer it to a special furnace. And they put this in the furnace for about 3 hours to melt it. And they put it at temperatures between 1,000 to 1,500 degrees Celsius, according to Eric Kraft, the author of Titanium. Now, once they do this, the result is a large porous sponge of titanium. This large porous sponge can contain nitrogen or oxygen, which is a problem because it makes the metal rather brittle. So what they have to do is put it back in the furnace to remove all those impurities, and once that is done, they take the porous sponge that they just recreated and they further produce it into rods, sheets, bricks, anything they need it to be produced into. The problem is it's a slow and tedious process, and it can only be made one batch at a time because of how tedious it is. So now that you know how it's made and refined, I'm going to go on to the uses. So titanium is not very widely used simply because it is so expensive, because of the process that it goes through, but it is used in several appliances. One of those appliances are expensive automobiles, buildings, obviously more monumental structures. They use it in the military, they use it for jetliners, and also commercial airlines. And they also use it in cosmetics. Now this is interesting because they use it in cosmetics because it doesn't cause any irritation to skin. And it's also a great component because it's water resistant, and that's one reason why it's used for cosmetics. It's also used for sunscreen. Now it's used for sunscreen not only because it's water resistant, but it's also great for reflecting, absorbing, and scattering light, according to CSA.com. Now, titanium is also used in sporting equipment because of how strong it is, and it's also used in prosthetics, in prosthetic limbs and hip replacement, stuff like that, according to a documentary titled How Did They Do It? Titanium. You now know about titanium and how it has made a presence in our lives today. I've informed you about the basics and history of titanium. I've also informed you about how titanium is refined and produced, and I've also informed you about how titanium has made a presence into our lives today in products that you either are familiar with or use every day. Titanium has made a huge progress over its invention since 1910, which is about 114 years ago. And according to its progress, it hopefully over the next few years will become more beloved and more utilized. Thank you.